Hi. I'm a doctor, respiratory physician to be precise, which basically means two things. I know a lot about lungs, and most people still have no idea what they actually do. But I'm not here to talk about lungs or alveoli right now. I'm here to talk about something that's even more difficult to diagnose and we don't see on medical charts. The invisible pressure of following what everyone expects us to do versus what we actually want to do. Now, growing up in India, I had a very clear idea about what a successful doctor looked like. Top medical college, top specialization, job in a metro, marriage at the right time, and most importantly, no detours. Well, spoiler alert, I didn't quite follow that script. In fact, I think most of my life decisions have offended at least half of the Indian population by now, and almost all of my family WhatsApp groups. But here's the thing. Every doctor out here who's sitting here at some point in their life might have faced some crossroad moments in their life, times when they've had to think, do I follow the well-lit path or do I take a deep breath and step into the unknown? I chose the unknown, 5 times to be exact. And today, I'm here to take you through those crossroad moments of my life because chances are you might just find yourself in one of them. And in that journey is a pathway most Indian doctors never hear about, the MTI pathway. But before that, let's rewind. So I come from a family where the word doctor and daughter didn't exactly sit in the same sentence. But now being a doctor in India is a thing. Add female in front of that and it's a whole big thing. Now, throw in the eldest daughter of the household and boom, welcome to the pressure cooker. So like I said, I always wanted to become a doctor, but there were so many opinions against it. People came to my parents and told me, isn't that too much studying for a girl? But I stuck through it. I stuck through 18-hour study sessions, the peer pressure, aunties reminding my parents, iski shaadi ka bhi to sochna hai na, and 2 attempts at AIPMT. Yep, it was AIPMT back then, not me. I am that old. But I stuck through it. I always wanted to become a doctor, never had a plan B, and with an all India rank of 44, that's what I became. Fast forward to MD counseling, I always wanted to choose pulmonology. Sounds rare, but that's the truth. I loved lungs, like they fascinated me, but then again, I forgot to run it past the Indian society. Respiratory medicine, isn't that a TV branch? Because why can't you choose something more traditional like gynecology or something more graceful like dermatology or radiology? And how are you going to manage all those night duties and ICU flow posting with your future family? And the opinions kept pouring in. But then again, I stood my ground. But that was not it. I wasn't just the girl who took the not-so-elite TB branch. I was also the girl who was the first female resident in the history of our department in the institute, which also made me the one who was always called sister, sister when I kept reminding my patients that I was a doctor, when I saw all my male colleagues and male juniors getting that doctor respect on autopilot. But I had to work hard through it. I had to constantly show people that I belonged there and I wasn't somebody's assistant. But one thing that made everything worth it was by the time I graduated from the department, we had a table full of female residents who had joined after me. Turns out, when you stop asking for a seat, pull your chair yourself, others follow. After MD again, everybody expected me to take the logical route, SR shift, government hospital, slowly climb up the ladder. But I wasn't built for templates. I rewrote my story, so naturally, I did the opposite. I moved abroad, UK to be exact. I remember a time when I was swiping through NHS Trust websites like somebody swiped through Tinder profiles, just hoping and praying that something would click. But that is when I came across a route called the MTI pathway that lets Indian doctors work in the UK without having to go through plan. Yes, no plan. All you needed was your MD degree, your work experience, and the guts to step outside the normal script and move abroad. I applied to 22 trusts, got shortlisted for 8 interviews, Received 4 offer letters, chose one, packed my bags, and me and my husband, we moved to the UK. 2 doctors, one dream, and zero idea how aggressively cold the UK winters are going to be. But here's the thing. When I moved to the UK, I realized this move wasn't just a career move. There's a whole world out there that never fits in a textbook. So I joined the NHS as the specialty registrar in respiratory medicine. Sounds fancy now, but back then, it felt like I'd been brought into a Shakespeare play without subtitles. Everything was new. New systems, new protocols, new people, and I had to learn everything from the start. Right from how to say cheers at the right moment to writing discharge summaries in Queen's English. It was really difficult at the starting, but it was really different. I still remember for the first NHS round that I had. If you think adjusting to clinical medicine in another country is just about clinical guidelines and some acronyms, think again. For my first round in the ward, I still remember I was well prepared, notes ready, confident, when suddenly my consultant tells me, let's pull the curtain and have a chat, shall we? And I thought we were going to have a chat. Turns out that's British for let's break somebody's worst news of his life in calm voices and gentle euphemisms. Working in the NHS humbled me. Everything is centered around patient care. From documenting your notes to breaking bad news, everything centers around dignity. In India, we talk loud, we talk fast, and we usually have 3 relatives crying in the background. In the NHS, everything was different. The patient decides. In India, doctors are the authority figures. We save lives, we order tests, we diagnose, and that is about it. In the NHS, even if the patient is 92 years old, has 5 comorbidities, and thinks his stroller is a decorative item, he decides. I remember I had a patient who was 82 years old, had severe ILD, and we were discussing with him his further treatment options like more steroids, possible non-invasive ventilation, which is when he listens to us patiently and then turns back at us and says, Doctor, I'd rather lead a short, peaceful life than have all that. I just want to go back home, spend my rest of my life in my garden, and that's how I want to go. And that was it. No drama, just dignity. He had made peace with his breathlessness, and for the first time, I did not feel helpless as a doctor. I felt human. That was new. Another shift that I saw was conversations around death. In India, we don't usually talk about death until we absolutely have to. Most often, patients and their families keep begging for that one last try, and we doctors keep giving CPRs even though we know it's futile after a point. In the NHS, it was different. In UK, it's routine to talk about death as if it's a part of life. But spoiler alert, it is. We got introduced to the DNR protocol, that is the Do Not Resuscitate protocol, which basically meant not giving up on treatment for somebody, but just choosing a death with dignity. Patients in the UK were extremely polite, extremely kind. Once I remember a patient, a very sweet patient with Down syndrome who passed away because of sepsis. And after that, his sister comes to me and my consultant, takes our hand in her hand and tells us, thank you so much for doing whatever you did for him in the last days of his life. And that was it. I had never seen so much of grace in grief before. And that experience changed me as a human. I have sat with families who have asked about palliative care and end-of-life care even before we have mentioned it. The British patients thanked the doctors for whatever efforts they put in, even though the outcomes weren't perfect. They respected a doctor's time. And they said sorry, apologize for things they shouldn't even supposed to. Like, I was doing pleural aspirations for a patient once, and right at the moment when I was going to give a local anesthesia over her back, what happened was, as the needle pricked her back, she jumped up. So immediately she turns around and says sorry. And I, in my mind, am blown away. I'm saying, man, you're literally bleeding. You don't have to apologize. And that was how it was with the NHS. Now, if you think it was all rosy and nice, well, think again. It wasn't so. Initially, at the starting, there were some colleagues, not British, who did mock me for my accent, for my skin tone, for my Indianness. I remember I once had taken Indian sweets to the ward on an Indian festival, and I offered the sweets to one of my colleagues from Peru, and she pinches her nose and tells me, Indian sweets, they're too sweet, I can never have them. And moments later, I see her accepting cake and candy from another junior from a different country. I was taken aback. I wouldn't say I didn't miss home, I didn't feel invisible, because I was a girl with a long name who never knew how to say cheers at the right moment and who asked too many questions. I missed home, I missed the mango season, I missed being understood without having to translate my thoughts in English. But I didn't let those moments define me. I've been told I'm too brown to be a senior. I was told I was too new to know everything there. That I was wasting NHS money because I was simply observing the first week of my NHS. But I didn't let those moments define me. I worked hard, I learned fast, and eventually, and rightfully so, I started to own my own space. I stopped apologizing for stupid stuff like how I pronounce atelectasis. And eventually, things turned around. There were some moments of kindness as well during those moments of challenges. Like, I had once stayed back in the ward after work one evening. I was completing some documentation for a patient when suddenly a junior nurse passes me by, comes to me and tells me, Doctor, you smile a lot, makes the ward a little less heavy. And those moments of kindness when I was facing a lot of challenges outside became my lifeline. Now, if you think the story ends here with me living in the UK, sipping the English tea and living the NHS dream, well, think again. Because that wasn't it. At the end of my MPI tenure, I had a decision to make. I could stay there, gain experience, apply for a more permanent role and lead a comfortable life. Or I could come back. And I would reply if I said it wasn't an easy decision to make. Because I started to finally gain my ground there. I started to finally have friends. I gained the mentors I always needed all my life. And I was leading a very safe, happy life. But then there was also this pull that I had for my home back then. I grew in the NHS, but I always wanted to get back to my roots and take that growth with me back home. So I chose the decision to get back home. And oh boy, the reaction. Who even comes back after moving to the UK? Are you alright, beta? Are you okay? Do you need help? You had everything. The UK life, NHS dream, pounds, respect, lifestyle. Who even gives all that up and comes back? People still ask me, why the hell did I come back? And most of the time, they just assume because I couldn't make it there. But the truth, I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't unsatisfied. It was just that wasn't the definition of my success. My definition of success did not rely on some postcode or some pounds. For me, it was more about the impact and the purpose and getting that growth back home with me and building something for myself. So I got back. Before I got back, at the end where I was just nearing the tenure and one last time, my clinical lead, who was also the head of the department at that time, called me to his office for the last time and he had a chat with me and then happened to tell me, what can I do to make you stay? That was it. I didn't say anything. I smiled because I had made my point. I got back, I started teaching, I shared my journey, started creating content about NHS, MTI pathway, alternate pathways in medicine, life in respiratory medicine, and eventually I built something big out of it. That little side project turned into something big I had never imagined. It turned into an online community of 60,000 doctors who had a safe space to talk about things when they felt stuck in life, when they felt that they wanted to explore something out of the usual script. So that was my purpose for me. So if somebody tells you that the success in India, in medicine, is supposed to be linear, starting from NHS to starting from the NEET PG to getting government job and then eventually climbing up the ladder, I would tell you something. Success can also look like choosing a branch that resonates with you, even though it does not resonate with others around you. Moving abroad, not because you want to escape something, but because you want to learn. And coming back again, not because you didn't make it, but because it was your choice. Finally, speaking up, not because you want to be a voice for somebody, but because you just want others to know that they're not alone. So here's my definition of success for what's worth it. Success is basically knowing your why, your purpose. It's knowing that the path less taken isn't always empty, it's just quieter and it takes you exactly where you need to be. It's knowing that it's not about never falling off the path, it's about making your own path in your journey. So, to all the doctors, students, dreamers out here, if you've ever felt that moment in your life when you've been torn between choosing what's safe and what's exciting, what's traditional versus what's intuitive, or choosing between what everyone expects you to do versus what you want to do, this is something that I have learned from the roller coaster of a journey of myself, and that is listen to that tiny voice inside of you. Not the one of fear, but the one that slightly whispers into your ear, let's give it a try, let's take the leap of faith. Because when you do, the universe has a weird way of catching you. If it doesn't, you'll still learn to fly. And if nothing else, you'll have a great TEDx talk to give someday.